restaurants around the country are running out of time. An estimated 16,000 permanently closed since March.
American dining is changing fast. Chains that once had lines out the door are now losing customers by the millions. Prices are climbing, quality is sinking, and people are fed up. Social media has given every disappointed customer a megaphone, and they are using it. But it is not all doom and gloom. Two chains are doing something right and winning back the crowd in a big way. Today, we are counting down 15 restaurant chains that customers cannot stand anymore, working our way from bad to worst. And at the very end, we reveal two rising stars that are flipping the script entirely. You might be surprised by who is sitting at number 1 on this list. Number 15. Applebee's was the neighborhood bar and grill that everybody loved. Friday nights, birthdays, post-game celebrations. It was the default destination for millions of American families for decades. That era is over, and the numbers back it up. The menu has ballooned into a confusing mess of dishes that feel frozen, reheated, and uninspired. There is no clear identity anymore. Are they a sports bar, a family restaurant, a late-night hangout? Nobody knows, including the brand itself. Customers consistently report slow service, sticky tables, and food that arrives lukewarm at best. The endless promotions and dollar drink specials drew in a crowd that drove away the family diners the chain originally built its brand around. The atmosphere shifted, and not in a good direction. Same-store sales have been sliding for years, and locations are closing across the country. Corporate has tried rebranding, promotions, and menu overhauls, but nothing has stuck. For a brand that once defined casual dining in America, the fall has been steep, prolonged, and painful to watch. Coming up, a 24-hour legend that somehow lost the plot on the one thing it was always supposed to be good at. You will want to hear this. Number 14. Denny's. Denny's built its entire identity on being open 24 hours and feeding anyone who walked through the door, no matter the time, no matter the occasion. Late night after a concert, early breakfast before a flight, a quiet booth during a rough week. Denny's was always there. That promise has quietly eroded. The brand has been losing customers for years, and the reasons stack up quickly. The food quality has slipped to the point where even loyal fans admit the Grand Slam hits different now, and not in a good way. The eggs feel rubbery. The coffee tastes like an afterthought. Locations look dated and tired, like they have not been renovated since the early 2000s. Service is inconsistent from location to location, which is a real problem for a brand that sells reliability. Prices have crept up to a level where customers would rather go somewhere that at least feels like an upgrade for the same money. Hundreds of locations have shuttered since 2020. The promise of a hot, dependable meal at 3 in the morning is no longer something Denny's can consistently deliver, and that is a brand identity problem with no easy fix. If you are enjoying this breakdown, smash that like button right now. It takes 1 second and helps more people find this video. Now here is where things get interesting. The next chain on this list is a name you will see again at the very end of this video. And the reason why is one of the biggest plot twists in the restaurant industry right now. Number 13. Chili's, previous era. Chili's spent years as a punchline. The brand let its menu bloat to an unmanageable size, its service quality slip, and its identity blur into every other forgettable casual dining chain on the block. Customer satisfaction scores tanked across the board. The infamous Endless Apps promotion nearly broke kitchen operations at multiple locations, with workers overwhelmed and guests frustrated by wait times that stretched past any reasonable limit. Social media turned Chili's into a running joke, and not the affectionate kind. For most of the early 2000s and into the 20s, Chili's was the textbook example of a chain that completely lost the plot. Franchisee relationships were strained. The core menu felt stale. Younger customers were not coming in, and older ones were going less often. Leadership was cycling through ideas without landing on anything that stuck. The brand was drifting in a sea of mediocrity, and nobody seemed to have a paddle. Why is it sitting at number 13 and not higher on the countdown? You will find out when we get to the Rising Stars section at the end. Trust us, stay with it. Next up, a chain so woven into American culture that its decline genuinely feels like losing something. This one is personal for a lot of people. Number 12. Olive Garden. Never-ending pasta and breadsticks used to feel like a celebration, a special occasion, an event you actually looked forward to. Now Olive Garden feels like a chain, trapped in 1995, unable or unwilling to evolve for a dining public that has moved on. The food is heavy. The portions feel like a compromise between value and quality that satisfies neither, and the Americanized Italian dishes have never been further from what customers actually want out of a restaurant experience in 2025. Younger diners are skipping it entirely. When you ask someone in their 20s about Olive Garden, you get a polite shrug at best. The restaurants feel tired physically. Booths are worn. Lighting is dated. The energy in the room is flat. Parent company Darden has tried to course correct with menu updates and service initiatives, but the brand equity is eroding at a rate that is hard to reverse. The salad and breadsticks are still beloved, and still the main reason anyone steps inside. When the most exciting thing about your restaurant is the free bread, that is a sign something deeper has gone wrong. Up next is a chain that tried to fix its image problem with one of the most mocked rebrands in fast food history. And somehow it got worse from there. Number 11. IHOP tried to rebrand as IHOB, the International House of Burgers, and the internet had an absolute field day. The stunt was meant to generate buzz and introduce the chain's new burger line. It did generate buzz, just not the kind anyone wanted. The rebrand became a meme within hours, and the actual burgers were largely forgotten in the chaos. The campaign was eventually walked back, but the ridicule lingered far longer. The real problem at IHOP runs much deeper than a bad marketing campaign, though. The pancake chain has been struggling with rising food costs, aging interiors, declining traffic, and menus that have grown so large they feel exhausting to navigate. Breakfast culture is booming right now. Weekend brunch lines stretch around the block at independent spots in every major city. IHOP is not capitalizing on any of it. Competitors like First Watch and local brunch concepts are eating their lunch, so to speak, by offering fresher, more intentional menus with actual atmosphere. The syrup and butter experience that defined IHOP feels like nostalgia now, not a reason to actually plan a visit. We are entering the top 10 now, and everything gets more intense from here. The next chain built its entire brand around one food and somehow managed to ruin the experience of eating it. Number 10. Buffalo Wild Wings. Buffalo Wild Wings was the destination for sports, wings, cold beer, and a genuinely good time. The brand had a clear identity and it worked for years. That vibe has curdled. The wings have gotten smaller and the prices have gone up at the same time, which is exactly the combination that makes customers feel cheated. People are calling it out on social media constantly, posting side-by-side comparisons of what a 10-piece order used to look like versus what it looks like today. Service during big game nights is frequently described as chaotic and understaffed. The chain has been embroiled in legal controversies, including a widely covered lawsuit over whether boneless wings should actually be allowed to call themselves wings at all, given that they are essentially chicken nuggets. The atmosphere inside locations feels loud in an exhausting way now, rather than an energetic one. The sauce selection remains impressive, but it cannot carry the whole experience. For wing lovers, there are better options, faster service, and lower prices at competitors and local spots around every corner. The loyal sports bar crowd is slowly looking elsewhere. The story coming up next involves a promotion so popular, it literally bankrupted the chain running it. That is not a metaphor. That actually happened. Number 9. Red Lobster. Red Lobster filed for bankruptcy in 2024. That single fact tells you almost everything you need to know. The endless shrimp promotion, which had been a recurring limited-time offer for years, became a permanent menu item in 2023. Customers loved it. They showed up in massive numbers, ordered plate after plate, and the chain lost money on nearly every single one of them. The promotion became a financial disaster that accelerated an already struggling brand toward total collapse. Before the bankruptcy filing, the warning signs had been flashing for years. Complaints about shrinking portion sizes, dropping food quality, rising prices, and outdated restaurant interiors were everywhere online. The chain that made seafood accessible and celebratory for Middle America let years of corporate mismanagement and short-term thinking drive it straight into the ground. Locations have been closing. The brand has been trying to reorganize under new ownership. The Cheddar Bay biscuits remain one of the most beloved free items in all of chain dining. Everything else around them became a cautionary tale about what happens when a brand loses its discipline. Drop a comment right now. Which restaurant on this list do you still defend? We read every single comment and we want to know. The next entry has been closing restaurants so fast that entire regions of the country have lost their locations almost overnight. The numbers here are staggering. Number 8. TGI Fridays. TGI Fridays has been closing locations at a rate that is hard to watch. In 2024, the chain announced mass closures that wiped out nearly 90 U.S. restaurants in a single move. That kind of contraction does not happen to a healthy brand. It happens when something fundamental has broken down and there is no clear path forward. Fridays found itself in exactly that position. The brand feels completely untethered from the current moment. The cocktail bar identity that made Fridays feel exciting in the 80s and 90s now reads as dated and tired. The food is overpriced for what arrives on the plate, which is a combination that younger customers in particular will not tolerate when they have so many better options available. Fridays built its entire identity around the idea of celebration, of the weekend starting early, of fun being around every corner. Walking into one today feels more like attending a farewell party for the concept itself. The energy is gone, the crowd is gone, and the locations are disappearing fast. Up next is a chain that was once the largest restaurant brand on earth, measured purely by number of locations. What happened to it is a story of scandal, private equity, and a slow drift into irrelevance. Number 7. Subway. Subway peaked and then began a long, grinding decline that became impossible to ignore. For years, the brand held the record for most restaurant locations worldwide, surpassing even McDonald's at its height. That scale masked deep problems that were building underneath. Franchisee relationships were strained by low margins and corporate mandates that felt disconnected from the realities of running an individual store. Quality control was inconsistent because with that many locations, consistency is nearly impossible to enforce. The brand sold to private equity firm Rourke Capital in 2023 after years of traffic declines, location closures, and a public relations cloud that never fully lifted following the scandal involving longtime spokesperson Jared Fogle. The footlong that once felt like genuine value now sits in a market full of fast casual competitors, charging similar prices but delivering a dramatically better product. Customer complaints center on inconsistent bread texture, skimpy vegetable portions that vary wildly by location, and a general sense that the brand has no clear identity in a crowded market. Subway is still everywhere. But ubiquity and desirability are not the same thing, and Subway is learning that lesson at scale. The chain coming up next did not just lose customers, it lost the cultural argument entirely. And in 2024, it paid the ultimate price. Number 6. Hooters. Hooters filed for bankruptcy in 2024. The chain that built its brand around a specific type of atmosphere, affordable wings, and a throwback dining experience found itself on the wrong side of multiple converging forces all at once. Cultural attitudes shifted. Worker advocacy movements put pressure on the brand's employment model. A generation of diners who are deliberate about where they spend their money decided Hooters was not somewhere they wanted to be. Beyond the cultural controversy, the food quality had declined to the point where even customers who had no philosophical objection to the brand stopped returning because the experience was simply not worth it. The wings are overpriced for their size and quality. The atmosphere that once felt fun now reads as awkward and dated. Hooters tried to launch a spin-off concept called Hoots, a more stripped-down, fast-casual version of the brand, but it never gained meaningful traction. The original formula is broken, and the alternative did not work. That is a difficult position to be in with no obvious exit. Number 5 involves a lawsuit, a death, and a drink that seemed totally harmless until it was not. This one changed how people think about ordering beverages at chain restaurants. Number 5. Panera Bread. Panera Bread was supposed to be the healthy, trustworthy, fast casual option. Clean ingredients, real food, a warm bakery atmosphere that felt a cut above the typical chain experience. That image shattered. The charged lemonade lawsuit became national news after a customer died following consumption of the high-caffeine drink, which contained levels of caffeine that were not made clear to the average person ordering what looked like a standard lemonade. Panera settled the lawsuit, but the reputational damage spread far and wide. The controversy accelerated a conversation that was already building around the brand. Prices at Panera had climbed to a level where customers felt like they were paying fine dining money for a fast casual sandwich and a cup of soup. The math stopped making sense. Leadership changes at the top created instability and a lack of clear direction. Locations were closed. The loyalty program, which had been genuinely popular, went through disruptive changes that frustrated longtime customers. The premium positioning that made Panera worth the price is now very hard to justify when the trust has been shaken and the value is difficult to see. The halo of healthy and premium is gone, and rebuilding it will take years. Get ready, because number 4 is the one that genuinely shocked people. This is a brand so embedded in American life that its fall from grace felt almost impossible until it happened. Number 4. McDonald's. McDonald's is facing a crisis unlike anything in its modern history, a full-scale customer price revolt. The brand that built its entire empire on the promise of affordable, fast, consistent food has watched that promise collapse under the weight of years of menu price increases. The average McDonald's meal crossed the $10 mark per person in many U.S. markets during 2024. For a brand whose identity is rooted in value, that number is catastrophic. Social media became flooded with images of McDonald's receipts. $30 and $40 orders for a family of 4. $8 Big Macs, $6 small fries. The receipts went viral not because people were bragging, but because they were genuinely outraged. Traffic dropped in a way the company had to acknowledge publicly, with executives admitting that low-income customers, the core of McDonald's customer base for decades, were leaving the brand. The $5 meal deal was introduced as a direct response and bought some goodwill temporarily. But customer sentiment remains deeply skeptical. When McDonald's is expensive, something has gone fundamentally wrong with the entire fast food economy. McDonald's knows this. The question is whether it can reverse course before the damage becomes permanent. Number 3 is a brand that was once the gold standard of affordable luxury, a place people went to treat themselves. Now it is a symbol of everything that has gone wrong with corporate coffee culture. Number 3. Starbucks. Starbucks is in full crisis mode, and the company has essentially admitted it by doing something extraordinary: poaching the CEO of one of its most successful competitors. Brian Niccol was brought in from Chipotle in 2024 specifically to turn Starbucks around. The fact that the board felt that move was necessary tells you everything about how bad things had gotten inside the company. A CEO hire of that magnitude and cost is not a minor adjustment. It is an admission that something is deeply broken. Customers are leaving for multiple reasons that compound on each other. Prices have climbed to the point where the $7 and $8 latte has become a genuine cultural flashpoint, a symbol of corporate excess and consumer frustration. The mobile order system, which was supposed to make things more convenient, turned cafes into chaotic pickup stations where baristas are overwhelmed. Order queues stretch endlessly, and customers standing in line feel completely invisible. The cozy third-place concept that Howard Schultz built the brand around feels like a distant memory when you are standing in a loud, crowded store waiting 20 minutes for a drink. Workers have been unionizing in growing numbers, adding a layer of labor tension to an already complicated brand story. Niccol has outlined a back-to-basics strategy. The execution will take time the brand may not have. We are almost at number 1, but first, the chain that managed to make its own customers feel like enemies with a single press release. The backlash was instant, massive, and completely avoidable. Number 2. Wendy's announced surge pricing in early 2024, and the internet responded with a level of fury that caught the company completely off guard. The plan involved installing digital menu boards across locations and using them to adjust prices dynamically based on demand, the same model that rideshare apps use to charge more during busy periods. Wendy's framed it as a test. Customers heard it as a betrayal. The backlash was immediate, widespread, and relentless. News outlets covered it. Social media exploded. Wendy's competitors, including McDonald's and Burger King, jumped in to publicly mock the strategy and promised they would never do the same. Wendy's eventually walked back the announcement, insisting it had been mischaracterized and that the digital boards were always intended to offer discounts during slow periods rather than higher prices during busy ones. It did not matter. The explanation landed flat because the trust was already gone. Customers who had been growing increasingly sensitive about fast food prices felt like Wendy's had confirmed their worst fear, that chains were looking for every possible way to extract more money. The Frosty remains beloved. The spicy nuggets have a loyal following. The corporate strategy surrounding them has done real damage that will not disappear quickly. And here we are. Number 1. This is the chain that sparked a national conversation, made people film their food in restaurants, and turned portion sizes into a full cultural debate. You already know the name, but the full story is something else. Number 1. Chipotle. Chipotle is the most complained about restaurant chain in America right now, and the reason can be stated in 2 words: portion sizes. What began as a trickle of social media posts, customers filming their burrito bowls and comparing them to what they used to receive, turned into a full-scale brand crisis that forced corporate responses, internal investigations, and a level of public scrutiny that most chains never face. The videos are everywhere. A scoop of rice that barely covers the bottom of the bowl. A handful of chicken that disappears under the guacamole. Customers holding up their bowls next to older photos to show the difference. The brand responded by insisting portion standards had not changed. Customers responded by filming more videos. Some locations quietly began portioning more generously after the attention. Others did not. The inconsistency made things worse because it suggested the issue was real and manageable, just unevenly addressed. Prices at Chipotle have risen significantly since 2020, which means customers are paying more for what feels like less. That combination, higher price and smaller portion, is the exact formula guaranteed to create maximum customer resentment. CEO Brian Niccol, the very executive who was later hired to rescue Starbucks, addressed the portion controversy before his departure. His replacement took over a brand dealing with the same issue on top of everything else. For a chain that built its entire identity around fresh ingredients, customization, and generous portions served fast, being publicly called out for skimping is an identity crisis of the highest order. Chipotle still posts strong revenue numbers, but revenue and customer love are different things, and right now, the customer love is under serious strain. Not every chain is struggling. 2 brands are reading the room, listening to customers, and growing because of it. Here is who is winning right now. Rising Star 1. Chili's. Remember when Chili's was the punchline at number 13 on this countdown? Here is the twist that nobody saw coming. Chili's has staged one of the most remarkable and legitimate brand recoveries in recent restaurant history. The chain leaned hard into viral marketing at exactly the right moment, positioning itself as the affordable, fun alternative to overpriced fast food and pretentious fast casual dining. The Triple Dipper became a social media sensation. People were filming themselves ordering it, reacting to it, sharing it. The content was organic because the food was actually good and the price was actually fair. Sales climbed, traffic climbed. Younger customers who had written Chili's off started showing up again. The brand shed menu items, simplified operations, and gave workers a cleaner, more manageable experience. Leadership made decisions quickly and stuck to them. Chili's listened to what customers actually wanted, which was value, flavor, and an experience that did not feel transactional, and then executed on all 3. That combination is genuinely rare in chain dining right now. Chili's went from being a cautionary tale to being a case study that business schools will likely use for years. Rising Star 2. Dutch Bros Coffee. Dutch Bros is what Starbucks used to feel like before it became a logistics operation with a loyalty app. The drive-through coffee chain out of the Pacific Northwest has been expanding aggressively into new markets and bringing something with it that most chains have forgotten how to manufacture: genuine energy. Not performed enthusiasm, not scripted friendliness. Actual human warmth from staff who seem like they actually want to be there. The drinks are affordable. The customization is deep without being overwhelming. The loyalty program rewards customers in ways they can actually feel. Dutch Broders is not trying to be a third place or a premium brand experience. It is not trying to be anything other than excellent coffee served fast by people who care. In a market drowning in chains that are raising prices, cutting corners, shrinking portions, and alienating their most loyal customers, that straightforward formula is winning. Dutch Broders is growing fast, and the customer satisfaction scores show it. Watch this brand. It is just getting started. The American restaurant industry is at a genuine crossroads. Decades of brand equity are being burned through in a matter of years by price hikes, portion cuts, corporate short-termism, and a fundamental disconnect from what customers actually want. The chains that survive the next decade will be the ones that remember why people showed up in the first place. Good food at a fair price in a place worth going to. You now have the full picture of the chains that got too greedy. But the only thing more shocking than what we just covered is what we are exposing next. Click the video on your screen right now to dive into the next big secret. I will see you there.